Now let's go over the history of treasure hunters. This weird series I'm making. So now let's in this timeline with the third video. Patrick Gates would be born sometime in 1934. Now we don't know how old he. Now with the other Gates family members, they just like we grow up the stories of treasures about the Declaration of Independence having a treasure map on it. But here we'll hear the story of what his grandfather told him, and that stuck with him for the rest of his life, very much so, into his older years. And he would later become somewhat of a eventual Benjamin Gates be that, as he would become also somewhat of a historic. He would also become a college professor. Whilst then in 1935, Dr. Henry Jones, with his adopted son Shortwell and Willie Scott, would end up in a small village in India, right to the Bangkok, I don't know, Palace, Palace, where would hide the Thuggee Code, which would be one of the most evil codes imaginable. Run by Moram, who was evil. Planned to take over the world if it would not be stopped. For his plans were evil. And therefore, in the end, so his plans were to take over the world and conquer it. And Indiana Jones would be put on some kind of mind control as he would take it over. Small Lamb was insane. He whipped the guy's heart out of his hand, and his plan would be almost fulfilled if it wasn't because of Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, after escaping Lamb, would meet up at the bridge and would cause his demise over a fight that would determine the fate of the Chicago Stones. They fall in the wrong hands. Evil beings would cause no good on them. But Indy made sure not let them go, and Moram would fall to his death, being defeated. And then Indiana Jones would tell things right. Yeah. Which would result in the death of Lamb and the Chicago Stones being returned to the village, as in Jones would set things right. And Indiana Jones in that same year would fall in love with Scott, which would probably last at max probably 2 weeks. That's how Indiana Jones romances should go if it's not Marion. Well, maybe Seal Halfgood. But wait on. But then in 1936, Indiana Jones would find the fertility of the Aztecs or Mayans, but would be stoned by his watch idol, Renee Belloc. And Indiana Jones would try and get it back multiple times until 1947, but that is about it. Well, then Indiana Jones would be contacted by the U.S. government and is so well bowing out its authorities and everybody else, if they were contacted by the U.S. government, would easily, not listen to them. He does, and he warns that the Ark of the Covenant is being stolen, is trying to be found by the Nazis. Then Indiana Jones decides to meet up with a old love inch of his Marion, and I forgot to tell that in part 2, here she is. Man, that's context. But they would fall once again in love, and how Idols is the best movie ever made, just as much as Supernatural is the greatest TV show ever made. Indiana Jones finds the Ark of the Covenant after more shenanigans with Nazis and whatever, as he would try and find it and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, as because if it did, not good things would happen, as he would. But also, he would also fall back in love with Marion Ravenwood, the only true woman he ever loved throughout all his life. Marion Ravenwood would always go down as his one true love. But he would get the Ark back before it would end up on a ship all the way to the United States America before, the Nazis get it right next to Renee Belloc, which he would take it from Indy, and he would also kidnap Marion Ravenwood. But because to show off his power, because he's insane or something. And and in his French accent, they go, "Oh wow," in French, and he would use the summoning. But he would try and use the summoning ritual to open up the Ark to make sure that it would go well for him, to prove that he is the greatest archaeologist of them all, so that he can go down in history. But so that he would find it, and he would also get it, and he would also figure out that Indiana Jones was bluffing about blowing up something that kind of proves that the Abrahamic legends are somewhat true. Think about it. Because from 5 yes. But Indy and his rivalry for all 10 years of session would be theirs two's final outing to each other. And how he would to find out who's the better archaeologist. And it would end with him getting his head blown off. Belloc's dead. He's dead. You don't come back from getting your head blown off. Disney would say somehow Belloc return or something. If they did it with Palpatine, they can do it with him. As Indiana Jones would find the Ark and find it and put it in, and failed to put it in a museum. Instead, it ended up in the federal government's hands. The United States federal government's hands. Can't wait to see what they do with that. Time for your very ethical time at Guantanamo Bay. Hey. Man, can't wait for this to be flagged down by the CIA in probably 2 minutes after it's posted. Yeah, I have somewhat strong opinions about the federal government until MK Ultra Joe Kill. But after that, in 1938, Indiana Jones would have to go on another journey to save his father and find the Holy Grail. Because if not, the Nazis gets it. For that would not be great. But yes. And his dad is Sean Connery, or Henry Jones, the Force. And they would go on this adventure that would almost involve Sean Connery, being killed. But it would be fine. The shenanigans of fighting Nazis, finding an ancient knight. The bond would be reformed somewhat. As this would go down as the end of the final Indiana Jones adventure. Well, not really. But he would make sure that Nazis would not get it forward, for it would not be great if it fall into the wrong hands. Therefore, the Nazis failed to get it. I was also doing his time working for the Holy Grail. He would also fall in love with a woman named Elsa Schneider, who would also take the Holy Grail. And the man who technically recruited him, Waldorf Donovan, would be killed by the false Grail. Before we would go down. Then only 1 year after these events, World War II happened. Nazi Germany invade Poland. World War II has begun. Horrific war crimes, going down dictatorships, and the beginning of the end for imperialism war at least 19th century version of imperialism. Horrific war crimes, advancement in technology. World War II begins, as the Nazis would try and find hidden artifacts to take over the world. Make sure that their plan would see world domination and racism on the planet. All nation for the plan. For they would find try and find multiple artifacts from Thor's hammer to whatever they could get their hands on. So much so that they would find a fake version of the Spear of Destiny that would cause Indiana Jones to go and look for it once again. But it turned out, and the Spear of Destiny was probably the same one that pierced the side of Jesus Christ, and how it would be endued with good luck. But it was little more than any army, but it was little more than a fake. Indiana Jones would find that out in 1944. But he would also find the Dial of Destiny. And then after all, Alex O'Connell would find Dragon Emperor's tomb, where he would be one of the biggest archaeological finds. And then the Dragon Emperor would awake once again to take over the world. And to make sure that when it happened, Alex O'Connor called with the help of his parents, Rick O'Connor and Evie O'Connor, and to make sure this protect the world and the magical witch and the daughter that I forgot the name of, even though I watched Mummy 3 last night. Man, that's gonna need a review. I did not like Mummy 3. It was a forgettable movie. Who's been alive for a century, thousands of years. And she would later be killed by the dragon. An emperor in his plan to take over the world, but he made sure to be stopped by the Connors. And this is the end of part 3. Make sure to tune in for part 4.